accrued by your active employees each and every year. Each and every year, your active employees are accruing another $1.6 million of liability, or in your case, about $3,600 per active employee. So if you think about it, if I'm a teacher, a custodian, a cafeteria worker, whatever it may happen to be, and I make $45,000 a year, let's say, I'm also getting another $3,600 of retiree medical benefits that I'm earning each and every year. Basically, it's a hidden compensation, if you will. So when they say that, gee, what am I getting paid? Well, you're getting paid that cash cost, plus there's another $3,600 worth of benefits you're getting paid. So in your guys' case, okay, it seems like a lot. Hamilton, Wenham, that's running about $4,800. Northborough, Southborough, it's about $5,100. North Middlesex, about $3,400. So you guys, I would say, fit right in with your peers among regional schools. You're not too high, you're not too low. Fairly average in that regard. We didn't have a payroll number for you folks to compare it to, so I couldn't really compare you guys to the payroll, but you can see kind of Hamilton, Wenham, their $50 million to about 140, their number would be 147% of your payroll, so I don't know where your payroll comes in, but it all depends, again, on how many retirees you have versus how many actives. You guys are running about $7,000 per retiree out the door in benefit payments. Now, that is, higher than some of your peers around here. I mean, North Middlesex a little bit higher. You're kind of in line with Northborough, Southborough. So again, you're not off the charts, but you're a little on the high side. But again, a lot of that has to do with the teachers, because the teachers, again, they get 90% paid by you guys and 10% by themselves. If you have more teachers in the GIC, a lot of these other folks don't have their teachers in the GIC. They have them in their plan. And so therefore, they might be paying 50-50. In your guys' case, they're paying 10%. So that is just something to keep in mind. Next page just kind of showed you how you fit in Plymouth County. Again, in Plymouth County, Rockland is in the area. Marion, you guys are pretty close to in terms of normal cost per participant. Bridgewater, you're a lot less. Town of Middleborough, you're somewhat less. So again, you're certainly among your peers, if not slightly less than what they're doing. Again, on the per covered retiree for benefit costs, it's $72.30. You're actually less than what a lot of your peers are. Again, you'll see $8,700 in Rockland. You'll see $70,000 and change at Middleborough. You'll see $9,000 in Bridgewater. So again, you're comfortably among your peers, I guess is probably the best way to phrase it. You're not too high, not too low. So you're not off the charts in any direction. Next page, we just want to show you some funding examples, of which, again, I don't expect anybody to jump up and down and say, here, let's start funding $1 million a year. I mean, I obviously don't expect that. Just kind of to show you how you would get there over a period of time. Just a couple different funding schedules. And again, these are not meant to be, an idea for a funding schedule. These are simply discussion starters, not discussion enders. And I try and make that very clear because about a year and a half ago, we presented a funding schedule to somebody and, meant to start a conversation. And they sent me an email like 3 days later and said, okay, we've voted to adopt your funding schedule. And I said, that really wasn't the intention of putting the funding schedule out there. It was meant to begin a conversation. But if you want to adopt it, I suppose that's great. But I'd rather have a discussion and figure out what works for you guys, what your capital needs are, what other, things you have going on. Because, again, this isn't meant to be, GASB isn't the only thing you guys have going on. Retiree medical is part of it, but you have lots of other bills and considerations you have to deal with. And just follow with a couple of charts, basically just showing the differences in the pay-as-you-go cost and the funding schedules, as well as showing asset accumulation under a couple of different models. So I recognize, that's a lot of stuff, a lot of retiree medical that I know you guys are all very excited about and really want to dig right into. But with that all said, I'm happy to answer questions you may have about it. If you have particular concerns, issues, I can tell you what other folks are doing around the state. I can tell you what people are doing around the country. I can tell you what you're obligated to do, what we'd suggest you do, what again, anything you want to talk about, we're happy to do the best we can.
Anyone have any questions?
What are we actually obligated to do?
You're not obligated to fund a dime beyond the pay-as-you-go cost. So, and as of now, there is no state law requiring you guys to put in a dime. I think the argument is that over time, the state will require it simply because if you're one of the employee bargaining groups, you look at these numbers. For you guys, it's a little bit different because you guys, your present value costs are going to stay about $2.1 million. We deal with lots of other ones where the costs are really going to accelerate over the next 10, 15, 20 years. And if you're an employee bargaining group, you look at those numbers and go, they're not going to be able to pay the bill. And so you're going to say, guys, I want to see some money start getting set aside so you can actually, so it's not a phantom promise of 20, 30 years from now that benefits are going to be paid, but it's an actual real benefit that's going to be delivered upon. In your guys' case, again, your numbers are going to stay fairly consistent in today's dollars, so I don't really see that being an issue. But you guys are, I don't want to say in the minority, but there's plenty of people that are in a very different situation than you folks are.
So you're stating we're in a better situation than a lot of
Yeah, you're in a better situation in the sense that you're a more mature population in the sense of going, we have many groups where say you might have 400 active employees and maybe only 40 retirees, let's say, because they're a newer school district or there might be a cooperative education district or something like that. So their retirees haven't hit yet. So you look at their numbers and go, oh my God, we're only paying out 50 grand a year. Life is great. Well, yeah, because your retirees haven't gotten there yet. It's the pig in the python hasn't gotten here yet. And so in their case, that's really what this statement is really designed around, is to kind of force you folks to start recognizing the cost now. Again, if this statement existed 40, 50 years ago, the 50 million would already be on your books, and people would have had the discussions that you guys are having now 40 or 50 years ago. Much like you did with the pensions, when these people said, hey, pensions, we should probably start setting money aside. Well, at some point in time that happened and started setting money aside, and eventually, those pension plans around the state are getting fully funded. But that's taken quite a long time because, again, you're basically paying today's bills, but you also have to pay yesterday's bills. And therein lies the problem, is that nobody wants to sit down and go, well, why do I have to pay the bills they should have paid 20 years ago? Valid point. But somebody's got to pay them, and you're going to pay them eventually because the people 20 years from now are going to say the same things about you folks. And so that's, basically what we all deal with.
questions, anyone? We can't just do this like the federal government, print more money?
Well, you can print up special Whitman-Hanson dollars and try and pay Blue Cross with those if you like, but how well that's going to work out for you. But, you got a color copying machine, you never know. So,
Obviously, this is something we're going to have to discuss and let sink in and talk about this and somewhere down the road, take a vote on it, obviously, because it's nothing we can push off.
yep.
But as you know, with current school budgets and what the state's funding, we're already at the budget breaking point. And I hate to say push this down the road,
Yep.
but this is a wonderful numbers and informational document to let it sink into the committee of where we're going, because obviously at some particular point it's going to mature and this is going to come to fruition and it's going to be. Fred?
From what I'm hearing and based on a conversation, I guess it was with your partner a few months back, the 2.1 that we're paying now, present value dollars, 15 years from now, it'll still be the same
Yep.
percentage or the same monies
Yep.
in 15 years,
Yep.
an impact to the budget.
Yep.
So we're already sort of paying that bill. It's the same amount that we're paying, proportionately,
Yep.
so to speak. So if we did continue to kick the can would still keep rolling, so to speak.
Absolutely,
We're
yeah.
not going to see any increases.
Yeah, you are correct. In today's dollars, it's going to take about a $2.1 million number. So assuming, again, you don't see any real declines in the size of the district or the taxing authority of the district, the school stays at about the same level. Yeah, it's going to stay basically the same percentage of your budget.
I do have a question.
Yep.
When you do the irrevocable trust, that
Yep.
money can then be invested.
Absolutely.
How has that worked for groups that have done that?
Most people don't have enough money to where it's been material. The ones we have, they've been earning, 7 to 8% a year. I'd give you, like, for example, Town of Dover, which we work with them. They've got a fair amount of money sitting in their trust. Mattapoisett's relatively new, so they don't have a lot of money in theirs yet. City of East Hampton has maybe 600,000 in theirs. They've done okay with that. But again, it's the matter of, you have to generally get to a certain material amount of money where you can start investing it in a real fashion, because again, when you have $100,000, you really can't get that diversified. And especially like Bartholomew and people like that aren't going to let you, manage, put the money in any kind of a thing like that unless you're more diversified. If you go with Pritt, you can you buy their portfolio. If you go with Bartholomew, you can invest it how you want. So it's pros and cons of both of those. And just to be clear, I don't work for either one. I don't care who you use or not use. But they each come with their own pros and cons.